Right, it's been a long weekend. It's been really busy, and I've not been here. But it's only been one day. I missed one day. That was it, just one morning. Surely, not much could have happened in that amount of time. Surely. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for that episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you so much as always for tuning in and making this a part of your morning routines. It is greatly appreciated. And I hope you've had an absolutely brilliant weekend. I hope you had a relaxing one or an enjoyable one or an exciting one in any which way possible that it was just positive for you. I hope that it was good. And if it wasn't, I hope that things are going to get better. So I certainly had a very enjoyable weekend. I certainly was in no place to do a show on Sunday morning. Not at all. It was a long day on Saturday, and one in which I enjoyed the festivities of a very good friend of mine getting married and everything that went with that, being one of the three best men and all the responsibilities that come with that as well. So, yes, it was quite the day. And apologies that there was no show yesterday, but I can tell you it wouldn't have been very good. But we are back this morning and ready and raring, refreshed and ready, of course, as I've already mentioned, to go. And looking forward, of course, to a last week of the Asian tour, preseason tour, of course. We've got one more game. Arsenal take on Tottenham on Thursday before returning to England, before they've played two more friendlies against Villarreal and Athletic Club, before the brand new season gets underway, of course, on the third weekend of August this month as well. So, yes, good morning to you all joining us live in the chat box. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Good morning to Carl, to Mark, to Jean, to Paul, and Paul Jr. as well. Ken, we've got Steve, we've got Tom and Cisco, we've got Z, we've got Martin and Evan, Barry, Maximius, we've got Natty, Tom and Gary, we've got Shari, Bakey, we've got Alaway, we've got Jeffrey in the chat box this morning, Rowan, Mo, Spearmint, Alex, Norris, Claire, all of you guys and girls as usual. So good to see so many of you in the chat box. Dave's in there as well. Good to see Melanie. I can see Black Shine. I can see Olawale and plenty more of you guys and girls too. And we've got a brand new member in the chat as well. Thank you to Cosmic Steps for becoming a brand new part of the channel and being a part of this family. Greatly appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for joining up too. Right, let's jump into today's stories, shall we? And as I said, I went away, which means that as is tradition, whenever I go away and don't do a show for a day, loads of stuff happens. So we've got a lot of things to talk about. But yesterday was, for me, a great day of sport, actually. I watched a lot of sport. We obviously had the Arsenal friendly. I watched the Belgian Grand Prix. As I was just kind of laying there on my sofa, just sitting down, put the recliner up, lay back. Oh, day of sport, just chill. No need to worry about anything. And it was very enjoyable, great enjoyable day of sport. It ended in the perfect way. Brilliant. England are, for the second time in a row, European champions as the women's side beat Spain on, and you're not going to believe this, especially for England, on penalties in the final. It was, of course, an all Arsenal affair, really. All of the Arsenal players had a big hand in the reason why the score went the way it did. Mariona Caldente, of course, Spanish international, but Arsenal forward player scoring a header to give Spain the lead in the first half before Alessia Russo with a header of her own, equalising after a Chloe Kelly cross. I mean, you couldn't ask for more, really, could you? From an Arsenal point of view, Arsenal dominated. You know those old headlines, Arsenal win the World Cup? Arsenal won the Euros this summer because the influence that Arsenal had on this tournament was just absolutely massive. But Chloe Kelly and Michelle Adjiman in particular, two of the best contributors to the tournament, two massive Arsenal players. But Leah Williamson, of course, Beth Mead and Lottie Wubben-Moy all involved as well and playing their part to the best of their abilities in the tournament. Also, Chloe Kelly with the winning penalty, of course, it was no doubt there. She doesn't miss two in a row. And I love her post-match press conference where she was just kind of like, European final, won that. Champions League final, won that. So, yeah, I guess I'd like to say thanks to all the people that doubted me and wrote me off. Absolutely amazing. She's brilliant. So yeah, Chloe Kelly, what a player. What a player. What a woman. Fantastic. And congratulations to all of the England team on this brilliant victory. Moving into the men's game, and Viktor Gyökeres was indeed signed, confirmed, announced, and unveiled all during the weekend, of course, that I wasn't streaming. As soon as I finished up doing what I needed to do with weddings and personal lives and things like that, of course, everything goes on and everything happens as soon as feasibly possible. But it was a moment that, of course, Arsenal fans... I was at the wedding, of course, when it was announced. I found out that it was being announced at 7 o'clock while I was there. We were kind of at that point of the wedding, a few pints in and feeling pretty merry. And then all of a sudden I get a notification on my phone from a friend of mine letting me know when the announcement was going to be. And I think it was about 5:30-ish. And I was like, right, I've got an hour and a half. Just keep on enjoying yourself. And then you can take yourself away for a moment. Find a corner of this very nice complex that we were in. It's a little. It was called a castle, though. I will say that didn't see any evidence of a castle. I think maybe there used to be a castle where this place was. It was more of like a barn. Maybe it was the castle barn. I don't know. But I found like a little corner just to get up my phone and watch the announcement. Now, I had a lot of people message me. And I didn't reply to a lot of you because I was busy, of course. And I was hoping... Look, I think the announcement video is great. And I think had we have not built up in our minds what we wanted to see, and had we not had these kind of grand ideas of what we wanted, of course, it would have been a great announcement video. And you have to understand the logistics of it as well. He flew in for a single day. A lot of the Arsenal staff and media team and photographers, they're out in Singapore on the preseason tour. So a lot of those guys are there. They worked with what they had to work with in a very short amount of time. And I think they pulled off a really, really good announcement video. I think it was really good. I think it had aura. I think it had weight to it. I think it had moments to it. The problem is that in our minds, we had built up this expectation, right, of wanting to see it. I know that there are people within that media team that are well aware of the ideas that we talked about, but maybe there is in some ways going, well, we can't just do what those guys want to do. We've got to have our own originality. If we just do what they want, it doesn't look particularly great. We've got to earn our own wages. And they do. I don't think it was a really good announcement video. Trust me, there were some more embarrassing announcement videos out there, believe me. But when it comes to what was on offer and what was given, I think it still held a lot. The music, the noise, the narration, which I thought was also excellent as well. All of that, was really, really good. And of course, we got the celebration at the end. So, all of that, I think it was good. And then, of course, he was unveiled to the fans in Singapore. He flew straight out after completing the deal, arrived with Andrea Berta, meeting up with, of course, Tim Lewis, Richard Garlick when he arrived at the stadium, and then, of course, Mikel Arteta in the team. I don't think I've seen a picture of Arteta and Gyökeres together yet, although I've been very busy over the weekend. But it was good to see kind of the pictures and the moments of him meeting his brand new teammates. And it's just a fantastic deal. Of course, 63.5 million euros plus 10 million euros in add-ons, which equates to about 63.4 million pounds total deal. Really, really strong deal. It's less than a lot of clubs are paying for players right now. It might not even be the most expensive deal we do this summer, believe it or not, because Eze can end up costing more. We'll talk about a little bit more about that, of course, when it happens. Yeah, brilliant. And of course, he did interviews, and so did Andrea Berta and others. So we'll just read you a couple of quotes, and I'm sure some of you have read loads of them already. But Andrea Berta said, "We're so pleased with the excellent deal that we have completed to bring Viktor Gyokeres to the club. Viktor is an exceptional talent and has consistently demonstrated he has qualities and winning mentality required of a top-level centre-forward. His physicality, intelligence and work ethic make him a perfect fit for our vision. We are confident Viktor will have a major impact on the pitch and become an important figure in our dressing room. Welcome, Viktor." Arteta said, "We're absolutely delighted to welcome Viktor Gyökeres to the club. The consistency he has shown in his performances and availability have been outstanding." Notice that he always mentions availability. The injuries have really scarred Arteta, I think, from previous seasons, and losing players at key times and big players at big moments. They've really looked to try and find players this summer that have got great availability. Norgard, Madueke, Gyökeres. He keeps talking about how available they are. Mosquera at 21 played so many games already. Zubimendi as well, played so many games, rarely injured. They've really focused in on this word of availability. And I think that's really, really telling. He continues by saying, yes, his availability performances have been outstanding and his goal contributions speak for themselves. Viktor has so many qualities. He is a quick and powerful presence up front with incredible goal scoring numbers at club and international levels. He brings a clinical edge with a high conversion rate of chances into goals with his intelligent movement in the box, making him a constant threat. We're excited about what Viktor brings to our squad, and we're also looking forward to starting to work with him, and we welcome Viktor and his family to Arsenal. If you want to watch, of course, Viktor's interview with Arsenal, you can do so on their websites. You can watch a number of kind of behind-the-scenes clips as well, available over on the Arsenal website and, of course, their YouTube channel as well. I'd also recommend giving a read to James McNicholas's kind of how this transfer came about with The Athletic. There's some really interesting insights into that deal, particularly kind of the Benjamin Šeško stuff that we talked about on the channel, the demands of Leipzig, and to a degree, of course, I think the agent as well, who really didn't mesh at all in the discussions with Arsenal and Andrea Berta. And it also seemed like that once Arsenal had kind of progressed on the deal for Gyökeres, there were some discussions on the Šeško side that kind of were indicative that they probably messed up a little bit. And actually they'd realised that, Arsenal are not bluffing in this move to Gyökeres. They're not pivoting away from us to try and make us lower our demands. They're pivoting away because they actually want to go and sign Gyökeres instead. So it was a really interesting piece by James and other contributors as well on The Athletic. So I recommend you go and check it out if you haven't done so already. But yeah, go give it a listen. All loads of stuff to do with Gyökeres, and I'm sure we'll talk about him a lot more in the weeks to come. He could make his debut against Spurs on Thursday. Now, the game itself, Arsenal played Newcastle, of course, yesterday. 3-2 victory. They went 1-0 down pretty early on. Counter-attack, poor defending, really, to let Alanga get into that space. It was a terrible finish, but it didn't need to be good because it still hit the back of the net. Completely wrong-footed David Raya, and the miss kick ended up going in the back of the net, and Arsenal were punished. But they did equalise in very, very, very stylish fashion. Brilliant goal from Mikel Merino, whose presence in this squad cannot be ignored still. It seems that he doesn't have like a guaranteed spot in the starting 11 right now, but make no bones about it, Mikel Merino is going to have an influence on this forthcoming season. His ability to score goals, his ability to get into the box, his threat. He's going to come off the bench and be a presence for us. He's going to be a really important factor in this team. And I like Mikel Merino. I think he's a really astute piece of business by Arsenal. I think he adds good depth. I think he adds really strong contributions to this team. He has depth in a number of positions like box to box, arguably kind of a more advanced 8. And we know that he's offered his services as a centre forward or a false 9 as well. So genuinely, really, really, really good performance from Mikel Merino. Havertz, I think, again, wasn't on the end of chances to score them, but again, was really important in the build-up and the collaboration for a lot of the chances that we did create during the game. I don't think we played as well as we did against AC Milan, even though we won the game by the same margin. We weren't as dominant. We weren't as threatening. I thought we should have won that game against Milan by more goals than we actually managed to score against Newcastle. We just were quite wasteful in that game. But in this game, it was a lot more war of attrition. I think actually there was some tactical things to look out for in this game regarding it being a pre-season fixture. I don't think you'll see games necessarily played the way that Arsenal played this game. The thing about pre-season fixtures is people look at them on the outside and go, it's just a practice game. They go into it like they're going to play any other game. I think they actually create different scenarios for these preseason friendlies. I think they load them up differently beforehand. I think they go through different drills beforehand. They can try and increase the load on players ahead of a friendly to kind of give them an indication of what it's like to play games close to one another. So the training, the fitness preparation could be different before fixtures because it looked a little bit lethargic at times. And I was thinking, okay, I wonder if they'd loaded them differently going into this friendly. And of course, it was against a very, very physical Newcastle side who were kicking, were sliding, were punching 15-year-olds in the face. These types of things were going on in the game. And I always thought when I saw that it was going to be Newcastle that we're playing in pre-season, I was a bit like, are you sure? Is this really the opponent that you really, really want to play in pre-season? Because you're going to get kicks, you're going to get the risk of injury goes up, and there was risks of injuries. But Arsenal, of course, managed to win the game. The other goal, of course, came in from Kai Havertz. Fantastic ball into the box. If it hadn't been put in the back of his own net, Saka was waiting to just tap it in at the back post. Havertz, of course, having another influence on another game, despite the presence of Gyökeres coming in. But Arsenal managed to win the game because of a Martin Odegaard penalty. But the only reason that we got that penalty was because of the absolute brilliance of a very, very young player who is impossible not to be excited about. It's impossible not to get excited about Max Dowman. Absolutely impossible not to get excited about Max Dowman. What a performance. Just the runs, the confidence, how he takes players on. He beats players like they're not there. I tweeted during the game, so as I say, I was just kind of sitting on the sofa yesterday for a lot of the day just with my phone and tweeting a few things throughout the day. And I just absolutely, when you ask the question of, is this guy going to get chances? Yes, of course. I don't really understand how or what I'm watching at times. I really don't understand at all what I am watching when it comes to Max Dowman. It's just unbelievable. And he's playing like on the right-hand side and he's moving into those inside spaces. The commentators at one point mistakenly identified him as Odegaard because they thought it was Odegaard on the ball, but it was Dowman. He turned 16 this season. He can play Premier League football. He can't play Champions League football until he turns 16, I don't think. Stunning. Amazing. Exciting. It's one of those where I'm still like, in my head, I'm like, I don't want to like say too much because I almost feel like you're endangering the potential talent, that you're bigging them up to be bigger than that. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a real consciousness in me that's like, he's of such a young age. Like he's of an age bracket where you still have to be really careful legally, like what you talk about because of IPSO. And if you go do some Googling around what IPSO is, it's around kind of editorial standards and what you can and can't say about people and players of a certain age. It's amazing to be talking about a player of this level of talent and what he brings to this team at such a point in his career. You know, when Lamine Yamal burst onto the scene with Barcelona at 16 years of age, it was like, this isn't normal, like seeing that talent. And there's still so much of me that wants to be really cautious and conscious that we're talking about an incredibly young player. I saw a great video. I can't remember the guy's name. Someone will tell me, but he put a video out there and he talked about the 20 things that Max Dowman cannot do. There's things like vote and drive and subscribe to a Netflix account and things like this. Absolutely ridiculous. What the things that he can't do, and yet look what he's doing on a football field. So there's some really good pieces out there. There's some really good articles about Max Dowman and his kind of progression, and he's very much committed, it seems, to Arsenal as well, which is also great. And hopefully Arsenal will get that professional contract signed when he turns of age to be able to do so. Now, Calafiori was taken off injured in the game, which is a shame because he had a really good game. I sat in the game and I was like, I'm going to watch Calafiori a little bit more than I usually do in a game. Because in the first game against Milan, I didn't really watch him closely enough. And so there's often when I watch a game, especially pre-seasons, I decide that I'm going to watch the performances of players more so. So when the ball is elsewhere, I'll be keeping my eye on like where a player is, what they're doing, what their movement is, what their actions are. And it was such a shame that Calafiori came off because he was having a really, really solid game. When you watch him specifically, you can see the talent that does really exist within Calafiori's game. It's still raw, you know. It's still areas of it that need to be refined, definitely. But he's a really good player. He's a really, really, really good player, and he needs to stay fit. There were worrying kind of words spoken about when he got that previous injury. When he got that previous injury last season, where I think they'd looked at his knee and it just looked at it, apparently the scans were really bad. But he obviously has come back from that. He's gone through the rehab and he's built himself back. We don't know what the injury is. You know, apparently it's a tweak. We don't know what specifically is. We don't know if it is his knee. We don't know if it's muscular. He walked down the tunnel. He walked through the mix zone pretty comfortably as well. He wasn't on crutches. You know, when you tend to have serious knee injuries, like I have seen in the past with Tomiyasu, players tend to be on crutches when they leave stadiums. They don't want to damage the joints. They don't want to damage or worsen the injury. So the fact that he was still walking, the fact that he, was pretty comfortable, he didn't want to take any risks. He knows his body. He knows he's been through these awful moments before. He doesn't want to be in those situations again. The fact that he was, going through those periods was that. What I don't like is I don't like people, saying things like, we've got another Jack Wilshere, we've got another Dabu Diaby, we've got another Tomiyasu. It's so frustrating to see fans just jump shit and just be like, oh, it's pointless. He's been with us for less than a year. So it's coming up, I think, to the year that we signed Calafiori. And the amount of people that just write players off or are just done already or had enough of this or saying we need to go out and sign players, not willing to give him a chance to see what he's actually going to be capable of. If he can get back to fitness, if he can build up, and bear in mind that, he still was at the end of last season, still coming back from these injury problems. He knows his body. He knows whether it's a problem. He is going to, if he feels the smallest thing, he's not going to take any risks. There's going to be precautions taken. It's pre-season. You don't go a little bit further. In real games, sometimes players push it too far. Jurriën Timber, I think, possibly was one of those. But when it comes to Riccardo Calafiori, I just can't stand it when people are like saying, oh, no, it's another Wilshere, another Diaby, another Tomiyasu. It's just grating. It really is grating how quickly people give up. Then there was this update. If we go to kind of like off-field stuff, we can talk more about the game with any questions you've got in part 2. But off-field stuff, obviously Saliba walked through the mix zone, was being asked questions. I think it was Curtis from AFTV asked him about his contract and if he'll be telling us that he'll be signing his new contract. And Saliba said, hopefully soon, which is obviously the most committed answer we've had so far from Saliba. There was questions being asked before about like the season and winning things, and I was like, my instinct was, has he misheard the question? Like, because I've never seen him committed an answer. It's usually you hear kind of a lot more media trained answers like, I'm very happy and, let's wait and see and things like this. But he was very committed to that. So I assume he didn't mishear the question. And has obviously said hopefully soon in answer to what he was actually asked. Because obviously if that is the case, fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. To see him getting the answers or us getting the answers that we need to hear, in these moments from Saliba. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this is the case and that he will indeed be looking to sign that. And obviously, before this interview, Hand of Arsenal, I'd put out on social media about Andrea Berta and contract renewals and said when Saliba and Saka sign their new contracts, not if, but when. So it was already kind of on the cards. And I'd been telling you, I'd been telling you for a while that Arsenal are very confident and calm about Saliba and Saka's futures. That's certainly the line I have, is that the club are very, very, very calm on this front when it comes to the players' contracts, and they've been confident for a long time. So hopefully this is something, of course, that lends itself into a contract renewal. Let's wait and see. Final story of the day. Eberechi Eze, who has, of course, now been playing with Crystal Palace in pre-season after his returned. Fabrizio Romano reporting over the weekend that Arsenal are, looking to step up their pursuits, and the Eberechi, of course, we know, and as I've mentioned to you, he is very determined to join Arsenal this summer. He really does want this move, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing Eze as an Arsenal player if we pay the money. And it's always been around if we can pay the money. And of course, we need to move players on. Reece Nelson looks to be moving closer to a move to Fulham with a loan with a potential obligation to buy in terms of that, depending upon kind of what character traits, or rather what characteristics and tick boxes are kind of ticked during that loan deal. So yeah, very much looking forward to this story now starting to progress. So let's keep those fingers crossed that Eze is a player that does indeed make that switch. But as I've said before, I expect this to be a deal that would be more an August situation. We've got other players that we also need to move on. But the sale or loan and obligation to buy of Reece Nelson, I think, would obviously be one small step to helping this deal potentially become a reality. Right, let's go to part 2, shall we? Let's tackle some of your questions and more. If you've got any you'd like to throw in, now is the time to do so, right after this. Right, this is part 2 of today's show, which is, of course, the period of the show where we are going to be going into the chat box and tackling as many of your questions as we can. So, if you have got a question, use a capital Q. It really does help them stand out in the chat box, and I'll do my absolute best to answer as many of them as feasibly possible. While we were live, we did have a super chat from Lord with a Fang who says number 8 times number 7 equals number 56. It's destined to be greatness. I don't know what that is. Am I being really silly? I don't know what that means. Someone who's not as dumb as I am, please tell me what that means, because that's gone way over my head. I don't know. Zuko says we need another attacking player to be able to compete with Liverpool. Eze is a must, because I'm sure that we're not spending 90 million and paying £250,000 per week for Rodrigo. Almost certainly we are not. So yes, that is the one. Melelo says, question, in the future, how do you see Max Dowman and Winery playing together? I have absolutely no idea, because we don't know how they're going to develop. We don't know how they're going to integrate into the team. They both play attacking midfield central roles as their predominant position, but Max is showing an ability to play on the right at the moment, but it's still so early. I'm always really reserved in talking about kind of young players and what we expect them, because we've done this with other players in the past and it's just not worked in our favour at all. So I'm very, very conscious of not doing that. Let's go to James says, are there any early takes that we can extract from comparing Arsenal's performance with AC Milan and Liverpool? I think, Liverpool's performances in pre-season, they lost, 4-2, was it, to Milan? Arsenal obviously beating the Milan, but James, I have to be consistent in this. For me, pre-season matches they're just exercises. They're not. You can't take much indication away from pre-season games. The players are prepared in certain ways to deal with certain points in time and moments in seasons to the best of their ability to give them the best indication of how their load is right now in pre-season. They're still building up fitness. It's so difficult to kind of take too much from games, even if one team has lost to the same team that you've played against. It's near impossible to get, what we need from these moments. Dan, thank you so much for becoming a brand new member of the channel. Dan Lino, thank you. Welcome to the TTT family. It is greatly appreciated to have you here with us. I See Flame says, will we see a regen of Bergkamp and Henry with Gyökeres and Odegaard, or Eze if we get him? I mean, that's a big ask, isn't it? We can only hope that they reach these levels, but they've got a long way to go before we get to kind of those, and they've got to win some trophies to be able to do that, of course, as well. Carl says, if Jesus leaves, do we need to find a replacement, and who do you think we should look at? No, I don't think so. Jesus is already thought of as a bit of a bonus this summer. We've got Gyökeres, we've got Havertz, you've got Trossard and Merino who can also play through the middle. Harriman and Noose got an opportunity yesterday. I quite liked his performance yesterday, so you've got a youngster there as well. So no, I don't think so. I don't think that is needed. He's not back until the end of the year either as well. Deepak says, have Arsenal completed the signing of Will Wright from Salford? It doesn't look as though that's going to happen now. This has been one of the weirdest stories that we've seen. Liverpool have re-entered the race, according to some reports that emerged yesterday afternoon. But the thing about reporting around really young players, it's really difficult to kind of get, things can change so quickly, whereas whole high-profile business is a lot more kind of straight shooting. But youngsters and their potential moves, because the finances involved are so weighted in regards to kind of the level the player's at. So at the moment, it seems, Deepak, that Liverpool have stolen a bit of a march on Arsenal again in that regard. I think he already lives, plays for Salford. So he's up in that northwestern region of England. So Liverpool might be the favoured destination for him over Arsenal having to move all the way down to London. It might be that he, at this point of his career, wanted to move to a Premier League club that was further up north. Maybe that's had a part to play, because Arsenal had a bid accepted. Liverpool have now had a bid accepted. So I guess we will wait and see what happens on that one. But he seems closer now to Liverpool than to Arsenal. Pell says, hi, mate. Maybe I'm looking too far into this, but did anyone notice Arteta moving the bottles and the microphone in his interview after the game? It made me think he's got OCD and he's a perfectionist. Maybe I think you are probably, Pell. He does it a lot. He doesn't want the bottles in the way of the cameras sometimes. He does it quite a bit. Also, you've got to remember there's people's kind of microphones up on the table. People put their phones up there, and I think he can be quite considerate to that and moves things out the way, so it improves kind of the audibility. What's the word? I can't remember the word. Audacity, I guess. I haven't got a clue, but you know what I mean. I don't think that that's the case, but he is very, he's very specific. He's very meticulous in what he does. So, it's impossible to rule everything out. But OCD is probably one of the most misunderstood things that exists in the world. Rich says, hi, Tom. Will fringe players like Nichols and Harriman and Hughes go on loan next season or compete for places? I don't know, Rich. I think that there's a good chance that they could go on loan. They're players that have reached a certain level with the youth team and now playing senior football where I think they need senior football. So a loan wouldn't be a terrible idea at all. Not a terrible idea whatsoever. So I would not be against it at all. Cass says, Tom, you're right. Every time you're not on, there's always some big breaking news. Tell you what, go away again and say you won't be able to do another show and we'll go and get Eze. Yes. Well, I am going away again at some point, but it's not until the next international break when the window is closed. So sorry, at that point it'll be too late. But hopefully we still get some big news as well. Tom says, I found out that no one really knows if Gyökeres' celebration is related to Bain's mask. If he never said it. So I'm surprised they didn't use it in the video. So I think it's just coincidental. I think that, and whenever he gets asked about the celebration, he says that he kind of came up with it with some of his friends. I think it is coincidental. I think it's a mask and people have attributed this to the mask thing from Batman and Bane specifically. I think it's a coincidence. It's a cool coincidence. I know he has adopted it himself. He's put like Instagram posts up with the quotes and things like that, like no one cared until I put on the mask type thing. I think it's a coincidence. I don't think he does it inspired by that. I think he is being given that. So even though I think he's posted about and kind of related it to the Bane thing himself, I think that's come later. I think that's come after people outside of him have attributed the mask thing to that. So yeah, but it works, and who cares? It's a lighthearted celebration. It's got aura. It's a brand, and it's great. Shawnito says, Tom, I disagree with you. Newcastle don't play friendly matches when they see us. They always want to die on the pitch. Spurs playing Wickham is a friendly match. Yeah, and I think Arteta said something similar to that in his post-match press, didn't he? He said, they're not friendlies, really. They're not treated as friendlies. They want to win. They want to win those games. Lord London says, Eze is being banded around, but as time goes on and we pivot to outgoings, it seems we've done on any more incomings. Now, Arsenal want to bring in one more player at least, certainly. So we are not done trying to bring players in. Jean says, I really saw positive things from Martin Odegaard yesterday, both in runs with the ball and how he shoots as well. I think he's gaining fitness. What are your thoughts? It was better, definitely better from Odegaard yesterday. Audibility was the word I was looking for. Thank you, Watermelon. Yeah, I think he's getting better. I think he's gradually getting there. But, Max Dowman's performance, I think, just stole all the headlines. He's a different type. He's more direct. Odegaard is a lot more kind of collaborative. But you have protagonistic players. Dowman is one of those. Saka is one of those. Those are the type of players that I think Arsenal needed more of, recently as well. Jake says, morning, Tom. Keep up the good work and hope you're ecstatic today with the 2 positive results yesterday. Absolutely, mate. It was fantastic. It was yesterday. It was a great day. Andy says, not quite a question. Sorry. 100% agree with those in the chat saying that Zubimendi is going to be an absolute brilliant signing. His ability to dictate the plays. Yeah, he had another really good game. I've been saying this. I've been saying to people, don't sleep on this signing. I know that we've known about it for a really long time. He is going to take us further than Partey did in that position. He's an upgrade in that role. He just is. He is going to give us more next season than what Partey would have given us for next season. And he is going to grow into a better player, in my opinion, as well. He is going to be so good for us. He's such a more Arsenal type player for me. And I think his abilities, his progression, the speed of thought, his intelligence, those things, not that Partey didn't possess those abilities too, but Zubimendi is going to take things up another level. for the number 6 role. And it says, Tom, from the 2 preseason games, have you seen a difference in the way that we play? Still a right side bias, something that needs to change on the left-hand side. I think that's just natural when you've got Bukayo Saka there, to be honest. It's just the way that we're structured. It's the way that things work. Odegaard is on the right. Saka is on the right. You've got more progressive fullbacks like Ben White on the right. We've got a natural bias to the right-hand side. It's always going to be a more dangerous area. Liverpool have it as well, but it works in their favour because they've got Mohamed Salah. And they had Trent Alexander-Arnold, and they'll still have Jeremy Frimpong now. So it's going to happen. It's not an indication that something is wrong, but it is an indication that we can do more on the left, and there's more potential to get from the left. But it's not something that you're never going to get a team that plays consistently with it being 100%, or rather 50% on one side, 50% on the other side, or 30, 40 through the middle, or whatever, or 40, 40, 20. It's never going to be perfectly balanced because there's just different levels of quality on both sides, in different positions, of course, as well. So yeah, it's never going to be completely balanced. It's impossible. Elliot, who's been a member now for 36 months, says, sorry, Tom, but Isak equals Eze and Rodrigo. Yeah, it doesn't work like that, but yeah, certainly not. Lord with the Fang says, explanation of the super chat. Odegaard is the 8, Saka is the 7, and Dowman is the 56. Destined for greatness. Yeah, see, I did not put that together, but that's some great maths. That's some great maths, mate. I do like how that works out. Let's go to 7 times 8. It is 56, right? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely is. I was thinking it. I was like, is that right? Yeah, it is. It is. Charles says, most of our games this season will be centered on winning and killing off games early. I can see that in Mikel, and agitated from Heinze as well. They just want to win, and the players know this already. I think everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to achieve something this season. Everyone wants to go out and get that trophy. We've been yearning for it. We've been crying out for it. We've been needing it. We all know what's needed. There's 2,500 of you plus listening in this morning's show on YouTube. Thank you so much to all of you that are tuning in. Please do drop a like, of course, on the video. We're going to be answering some more of your questions too. So please make sure that you do continue to throw your questions, get your thoughts in. I'll try and answer as many of them as I can over the next 15 minutes or so. But if you haven't dropped a like on the video, please do. Not Too Busy says, oh my, maths. Yeah. I'm from Medway, mate. We say maths. That's how it goes. Adam says, Tom, I get loads happier when I see you've made a video and uploaded it. Cheers. Oh, thanks, Adam. That's very nice. What a nice thing to say. Bazza says, good to see Odegaard taking shots. I think he had more in 15 minutes than he did in 10 games last season. Obviously, listened to the feedback. Yeah, do you know what? I almost felt like when Dowman came on the field that I noticed Odegaard step up his game. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, and it might just be coincidental, but I almost felt like Odegaard stepped up when Dowman came off the bench, and Odegaard's game became a lot more direct, and he wanted more impact when down. I don't know if I was just... I don't know, but I feel as though that his game intensified when Dowman came off the bench. And a lot of you agree. Spearmint says he did. Bazza says agreed. AA says like the video, friends. It's not related. I just thought I'd click that comment. Spearmint says Odegaard had to overcompensate, it seemed. And Toby says, I noticed that for sure. Yeah, I really did feel as though that Odegaard's game stepped up as a result. And I don't know if that's because, he's any kind of mentoring thing or because of a pressure thing, because you see a young guy come off the bench doing what he's doing and you're like, bloody hell, I need to start doing a bit more. I don't think it's necessarily that in its main, but psychologically, I think there's definitely, if I was playing any game and there's a youngster there that's showing everyone up, I'd be like, right, I need to step things up. Like, it's just that psychological thing. Laughing Man says he didn't let him take the penalty. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Odegaard is, at that point, he is the senior player. He is the penalty taker when Saka's not on the field at that point. Maybe Gyökeres overtakes them. We will have to wait and see. I think for Dowman to have taken that penalty, it would have been a great moment. But if he'd have missed it, it would have taken away, in some respect, kind of the brilliant moment that won it. If anything, I think it actually did him a favour. I think Odegaard taking that penalty, scoring it, did Dowman a favour more than taking the penalty away from him. So, yeah, I think I don't have an issue with the penalty being taken by Odegaard at all. I think that It means that we can focus in on how he won the penalty and not what happened with the penalty kick. It was brilliant. Brilliant. I personally think it's a soft pen, but what I do think is that he gives the referee a decision. He showed maturity by feeling the kind of, he felt the contact. He felt enough contact that he thought, if I go down, maybe the referee gives it. I don't think you can count it as a dive because obviously there is contact. Joelinton makes that movement. I don't know if Premier League referees would give it or not because, they've got quite a high threshold for penalties in the Premier League these days, but especially for Arsenal. But the fact that he did go down, I thought was a good sign. It was a good sign to show that he's a tough player that has the maturity to feel the contact and then go down, give the referee a decision to make. There was a pushing motion. I just don't know if there was enough necessarily to guarantee that you'd get a pen in the Premier League. And I think there was that split opinion. That definitely was not an opinion held by a lot of people from when I tweeted that out. But I wasn't about the penalty being given for me. That was the thing to focus in on. It was the fact that Dowman has the intelligence to give the referee a decision to make when he's felt enough contact that he feels he needs to go down. Don Bruce says, I think Nwaneri and Dowman's presence puts some pressure on Odegaard, even though they are both young, due to Arteta seemingly ready to play them more. And that's absolutely fair. NIJ says Liverpool sold Diaz for 65 million plus Darwin Nunez will be sold and Isak will be bought. How are we going to compete with them? They have to buy Guehi, though, and their central midfield is suspect. And that's what I mean. They're investing a lot of money into the top end of the pitch, an area they were already strong in. But the areas of the pitch where they are less strong, centre-half, defensive midfield, they have not invested in yet. They still could. They still might. But how are we going to compete with them? Winning our games. We've got to win our games. We didn't lose to Liverpool last season. And we were weaker, much weaker than we are this season. I wouldn't say that Liverpool are much stronger. They already had great players. They already had really good players at that club. It's a point where, like, if you're already a great team and you're bringing in good players, you can get better, but the room for you to get better is not a huge gap, right? Whereas for Arsenal have improved their squad relative to the level that they were before the window. If Eze comes in, and we'll say hypothetically he does, if Eze is the 7th signing, let's say they sign Isak as well, I personally think that Arsenal would have done a greater improvement of the level that they were at than the level that Liverpool were as title winners to the level that they are now with Isak and Wirtz and Ekitike and Frimpong and Gyökeres. They have got better, definitely. No doubt about that. They are a better team, Liverpool, as a result. I'm saying that I think that the work that Arsenal have done to address such important positions in the team, as opposed to Liverpool not addressing two of the most key... Like, when you went into that window and you look at Arsenal and you look at Liverpool and you go, what do those two teams need to do in the window? What is the absolute musts for those teams? Well, for Arsenal, it was adding a player at centre forward. It was adding a player who can offer more on the left-hand side. It was adding a player that could bring in the depth to Bukayo Saka so that if he's not there, you've got that depth. It was adding 2 defensive midfielders if they were to lose both of their 2 defensive midfielders. It was to bring in depth to Saliba because we had none of that last season. And it was to bring a better number 2 goalkeeper. Arsenal have done every single one of those things bar the Eze thing, which we hope will happen to strengthen that position. And then when you look at Liverpool, you thought, unbelievable goal-scoring team. Amazing goal-scoring team. They had to bring in a replacement for Trent Alexander-Arnold. They have done that, but they've brought in a player that's very good going forwards. Take this from somebody who's watched Jeremy Frimpong's career since he was at Celtic. Because I've really... for some reason, Liverpool signed loads of players that I keep following, whether it's Dominic Szoboszlai, whether it's Jeremy Frimpong, players who I've watched for a long, long time from when they were previously playing at a very young age. It's incredibly frustrating because it keeps happening. But Frimpong is great going forwards, but there are suspect moments defensively. So they've not addressed that defensive weakness that was there with Trent. You know, Jurriën Timber is better than Jeremy Frimpong as a right back for me because Jurriën Timber is a better all-round player than what Frimpong is. Frimpong is better going forwards, but Jurriën Timber is so significantly better, in other aspects of his game. You look at the defensive area, Liverpool had to bring in another defender. So far, they've not done that. They've allowed Quansah to leave. Konate could be going to Real Madrid next summer. Van Dijk is 34 now. And they've got Joe Gomez, of course, still there. I think there's one more I'm probably forgetting about too. And then the defensive midfield, they've got Endo, they've got Gravenberch. They've not brought in a number 6. I think they absolutely had to bring in a number 6. So from that perspective, I look at the business that Arsenal have done. And if you're saying, let's say that out of 100, Arsenal were like 70, Liverpool were like 85. I think Liverpool have gone to 90 with because you can't, there's not as much of a gap to improve, 90 to 95. Whereas I think Arsenal have gone from like that 70 to 85 plus with the signings that they've made this summer. I think the improvement of them is bigger relative to what they were compared to Liverpool, even with the business they've done, which is brilliant business. I'm not saying it's not. Don't get it twisted. I just think the improvement to Arsenal for the relative positions that needed to be improved, assuming Eze comes in, is bigger than what the improvement of Liverpool is relative to the players that they have brought in. I hope that makes sense. I really do. AJ, thank you for the kind donation. I agree, Tom. Everyone keeps looking at Liverpool's first 11. I don't see how they would have a very good depth if they sign Isak, who would take money made from selling Nunez and Diaz, except they're injury-free. I mean, yeah, look, they haven't improved their depth, Liverpool. They already had depth, but they were very lucky with injuries last season. They haven't really improved the depth of their squad. Ekitike replaces the very sad passing of Diogo Jota and arguably Diaz as well. Isak would come in and replace and upgrade upon Nunez significantly. Florian Wirtz comes in. You could argue he's also a Diaz replacement as well, replacing him. Gyökeres is the long-term replacement for Robertson, and you've got Frimpong who replaces Trent Alexander-Arnold. They've not improved their depth of their squad. They've brought in another goalkeeper, of course, who will be the long-term replacement for Alisson. Yeah, like Arsenal have improved the numbers, the depth of their team. People will go, well, Mosquera's replacing Tomiyasu. We've replaced our 2 6s. Eze might replace Vieira. But these aren't players. Like Tomiyasu weren't playing for us. Vieira doesn't play for us. Nelson weren't playing for us. Jorginho was limited in the amount of minutes that he could give us. Neto wasn't playing for us. Gyökeres is the centre forward. We didn't have the centre forward like that until he's come along. Eze might add another option to the 2 that we keep on the left. So it's adding, whereas there is replacing. But Liverpool are the favourites for the title. There is absolutely no question about that. There's no question about that at all. For Arsenal to have become favourites with business this window was nigh on impossible. But there was absolutely nothing Arsenal could realistically do in this summer transfer window to make them favourites for me going into next season. That would have been impossible to do. So, yeah. Martin says, Eze, I know you're not a fan of the player, but that's an odd comment. Not going to lie. That's an odd comment. It would be like me putting Rodrigo yawn. Like, I think Rodrigo is a great player. He's not the one I'd go for. But if I put Rodrigo yawn, that'd be ridiculous. Ridiculous. Because he's still a great player. So just because you want others more so than somebody else, as soon as you start falling into the trap of downing on really good players, you start to lose kind of an edge in the argument or the debate about it. 11 mods. Isak doesn't want Arsenal. Šeško was too expensive and would most likely not deliver. Yet Gyökeres was the best option. He wanted it badly. He is ready now. Great business to get him at that price. There's no suggestion that Isak wouldn't have wanted to join Arsenal, by the way. Had Arsenal been in a position to be able to go for Isak, I'm very, very confident Isak would have been more than happy to look at that as a very, very good destination for him and his career. He's a big fan of Thierry Henry, of course. I think he would have been very happy to come to Arsenal, but Arsenal are not in the position to be able to go and spend 120, 130, 140, 150, whatever million it's going to cost to get him on one player. They're just not not in a position to be able to do that this summer with the amount of players they needed to bring in across the board as well. Adam says, Tom, you're away for one day and we sign a striker and England win the Euros, all because you were chilling in a castle. Yeah, I know. It's a funny life, isn't it? A kid says, I was upset with the Madueke signing, considering all areas are addressed except Eze. I'm content if we get Eze, and then I'm very happy personally. I'm calmed down about Noni, and I'm willing to give him a chance. I really hope that is the case for a lot of fans now. You've got the silliness out your system a little bit by now. We've calmed down. We've got Gyökeres through the door. There's hopes that we can get Eze in before the end of the window. If we can do all that, I'm really excited to see what Noni Madueke can do for this team and what he brings to it, because I get really frustrated with Trossard and Martinelli's performances on the left. And while I think Madueke's primary reason for being here is to be a better number 2 for Saka than we've got, it's not his only responsibility upon joining Arsenal. He's also going to play plenty of games in other positions, and I think on the left is definitely going to be an area where we do see him as well. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Bazza says, we get Eze, and this has been an unprecedented window. Great business. We will have the best squad we have had in many, many years. Looking forward to an exciting season. If Arsenal get Eze, Arsenal have had the greatest summer transfer window in their history. Period. Based upon the business at that point, you can all go and look back at the summers that we signed, Petit and Gramondi and, Overmars, and think they were great windows. But in that moment, we didn't know what those players were going to become. We didn't know what Thierry Henry was going to become when we signed him in 1999. We didn't know that. So you can look back and go, that was the greatest window because we signed the best player we've ever had. But we didn't know what those players were going to do. Just based upon the business itself and not the potential upsides and downsides, if Arsenal were to land Eze, this is the best window Arsenal have ever had, ever. I don't think there's a debate, really, to be had on that. So props to Andrea Berta. Not only that, but we've obviously signed up Gabriel, Waneri, and Lewis Skelly to brand new contracts, and we're hopeful of doing it for Saliba and Saka as well. So you've got to factor that in. That's also another factor to think about too. Interesting, we've not had the Waneri contract announcement yet. We're still waiting for that. It's all done. It's all signed, but we've not had that announcement. Maybe it will happen. Maybe there's just too much going on with transfers. Maybe we'll get that announcement this week. Hope so, because we need that. We need that announcement. Oluwashina says, Tom, what you just said now, referring to Arsenal as not being amongst title. I didn't say that. I think you may have misheard me, mate. I said that Liverpool are the favourites for the title. Arsenal are contenders, but Liverpool are the favourites. I said Arsenal can't be considered the favourite for the title. One of the favourites, definitely, but not the favourite. So I think you might have just misheard what I said. Carey Boys says, not a question, but a reaction. Brilliant reaction, Tom, to the Eze Yawn comments. Today's era of social media, we try and live and die by our opinions. There are many ways to win. Freddie, Overmars, etc. Indeed. Not too busy says Martinelli creates chaos and pressure on the defenders when he just goes for it. When he slows down and starts to think too much, that diminishes. Martin says Eze is not a left winger. Well, the fortunate thing is that you don't have to be a winger to play on the left flank. Winger is a style of wide player. It is not the only profile that can play in a wide area. You can have wide playmakers. You can have wide forwards. You can have inside forwards that play in those areas. And Eze, for me, is not a winger. No, definitely not. He's not a winger. But he is a player of an ability and a versatile quality that can play on the left and can play very successfully there and has done so on loads of occasions. He is not a winger, but a winger is not the only profile that can play in a wide position. It is one of the profiles that can play in a wide position. I think people get confused with the idea that you have the striker, left wing, right wing. So the only player that can play there is a winger. That's not true. So Eze is a lot of different things. He's a 10. He is a box-to-box midfielder if he wants to be. He is a wide playmaker if he wants to be. He can be a wide forward if he wants to be. He can be a second striker. He is so versatile that he can offer so much to so many different areas. Does he offer more, perhaps, in the middle than on the wide area? I'd say significantly, no. Considerably, probably. But when you look at what he does offer still in those wide left positions, and also I think, Martin, a lot of your opinion is predicated on the fact of what he's done for England there. That's not a very good way to build an opinion of a player, especially not for a national team. National teams tend to play very differently, obviously playing a lot more isolation. He often comes off the bench a lot for England, so he's not starting games out there too often either. So if your opinion is predicated a lot off of what he does for the national team, that's not a very good way to build an opinion of a player. The best way to build the opinion of the player is to look at what they're doing, of course, for their club team. And when he plays for his club on the left, which he has done on close to 80 occasions, I believe, probably more, he is still very, 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 very good for Palace. So that's what matters the most. He's coming up against opponents that he'll come up against for Arsenal. He's playing in the league that he's going to play for Arsenal. How he plays for England is irrelevant, to be honest. It's pretty much irrelevant. So I really do encourage people to dissuade themselves from kind of building up an opinion based upon what you see upon a national level, because international football is just very, very different. International football is so, so different to club football. So it's very, very, it's very, very inaccurate. There's too many unknown factors when you're predicating opinion upon international football. Andy says, apologies if I missed this. Joining from California at 1 a.m. With a 10-month-old in a sleep regression. Here's my question. How does Merino fit into a team with Eze, Rice, Odegaard and Waneri? He doesn't fit into a team with all those players, of course, not in a starting 11, but he fits into a squad with those players, Andy. And that's what Arsenal have needed. They've needed a squad. They've not needed a starting 11. They have needed a squad. And Merino fits in by playing in rotation. He fits in by being used when we've got injuries. He fits in by starting games in certain league matches and cup matches and European games. He offers Arsenal a lot. He offers Arsenal experience. He offers them a dressing room presence. He offers Arsenal loads. And I think he showed that in the game against Newcastle. Really good finish, really good movement, really good combination play. He is still going to have a really, really, really big part to play as well. Ben says, there was an article saying Zinchenko wanted to leave and Arteta has swayed him to stay. I really hate fake news, or at least I pray it's fake news. There's a lot of fake news out there. I've already seen some people in the chat box using sources that I really recommend you don't use because they have a track record of being wrong and try and guess. Unfortunately, the way in which the sphere of media is, and we'll finish on this point because I'm conscious of the time. The sphere of media is right now, you can infer quite a lot and you can do a lot of good accurate guesswork when it comes to transfers. You can easily guess sometimes what players are going to get linked, going to be interested in a move. And sometimes you can guess and make some good stabs in the dark about what's going to happen. There was definitely a lot of Ange Postecoglou is going to be sacked reports based off nothing but guesswork, because the decision at the time I saw those reports coming out, speaking to people very well connected, colleagues of mine into the Tottenham side of things, the decision had not yet been made. And in fact, it was still very much up in the air. And yet you saw reports that suggested that Ange Postecoglou would be sacked. And when he was sacked, obviously it looked as though it completely vindicated and justified a lot of those reports, when in reality, a lot of it was just guesswork. There was I got sent a DM. I won't expose who they are because I don't think it's fair. But as a good example, someone sent me a DM yesterday saying that Tommy Setford was going to start the game. He didn't. And sometimes people take stabs in the dark. Sometimes people might even get a bit of bad information here and there. But if you've got a track record of being wrong time and time, it's not why I don't tend to report transfer news anywhere near to the volume that others do. And also because I much prefer to get something double, triple checked. I might hear something, it might come from a really good place. Like the Eze story I broke in May, like that came from a really good place, and I was very happy to put that story out. And of course, that's very, very much vindicated by Arsenal's interest later on. The home kit announcement exclusive that we did before the last home game of the season came from a really good source. Put it out. But I'm not putting loads of stuff out, to be honest. And if you are, and you might hear loads of information about loads of different things, like I didn't do a report on Reiss Nelson being of strong interest of Fulham. I'd heard it from a source. I wasn't necessarily able to get it double or triple checked at that point, so I didn't go heavy on the story. I didn't do an article on that story. But when Sophie asked me on the Highbury squad about Reiss Nelson, I did mention on the show that I'd heard from a source that Reiss Nelson was drawing interest heavily from Fulham. 2 days later, Sammy Montbell and the BBC is obviously very well connected and done that story as well, and has managed to get a lot more information around that story as well, and done some brilliant work there. So it's a lot of the summer can be around a lot of guesswork for some, but you should know who is reliable and who's not, and who you should be listening to and who's got strong track records. I think we've all been on social media and in this world of Arsenal reporting of news for long enough now to know where to get good info and where to not get good info. I think it becomes pretty clear pretty quickly where you can get good info and where you're going to get guesswork. But thank you so much as always for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. We've got a couple of super chats just before we round up. Stefan said, some complain about Premier League friendlies as too risky, but would complain as a waste of time if we played, say, a Wickham or a Canterbury? Atta Canter. I thought it was a Canterbury hint. Then I was like, wow, going into Kent here. Truth is, we do enjoy them. I think there's pluses and negatives to both, but I think it's a fair point, well raised. Anyway, thank you so much as always for tuning in. Do make sure you drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. There's notifications turned on so you never miss a show. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, bright and early, 8 a.m. as usual. And I hope you have an absolutely fantastic start to your weeks. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.